because they didn't do the things that we didn't get ready for. Everything they did, we thought we were ready for. He's had it before. I mean, he knows how to bounce back, and he knew he didn't play very well, and it's not what he expects from himself, nor do we expect. So yeah, I would anticipate him to have a little more grit and a little more determination this week.
I think the last person you want to call out after the first game of the year is Tom Brady. Now, maybe they had a mutual truce going into the game, going into the season. Hey, I'm going to be hard on you. I want the guys to know that we're going to treat you the same, even though technically I'm not. So are you okay with it? If they have that truce, great. If not, I think you're barking up the wrong tree. The dissension could easily enter quickly.
Interesting. Barking up the wrong tree. Okay, so now Bucs coach Bruce Arians responded to what Brett Favre had to say. Take a listen to this.
Tom and I are fine, so I don't really care what other people think. So it's just what he and I think. And, we left the stadium fine. We showed up today fine, so there ain't nothing to talk about.
All right. So we had Tom's play, we have Arians call him out, we have Favre respond, and then we have Arians kind of back down there. Stephen A., do you think too much is being made of this? Are we reading into it too much? Or is there, fire?
Well, I think entirely too much is being made of it. Brett Favre has a right to say what he says. He's a Hall of Famer. He knows football. So I'm not going to disrespect him and his opinion about it. What I would say is that let's exercise common sense here. Do we really, really think that Bruce Arians has hugged Tom Brady from the moment that he arrived, has never said anything, has never coached him, has never been critical of him, has never had a conversation with him about the need to be critical when it's called upon? You think that Tom Brady at age 43, although he's a six-time champion who's been to nine Super Bowls, came in there and said, you know what, listen, I'm Tom Brady. Don't you even think about insulting me or saying a critical word about me? Of course not. Because you understand that when you have a star and you're able to coach him, it makes it that much easier for you to coach everybody else. And when you are a leader and the face of a franchise or the face of anything, you understand that level of coaching, that level of counseling, that level of authority hovering over you. It's incredibly important for team chemistry. Everybody understands that. And covering the NBA, I remember one time years ago, I was watching a game. It was on TV, but I was watching a game, and I forgot who it was against, but San Antonio was playing somebody, Max, and Tim Duncan literally forgot a defensive assignment, and the shot was missed, and ultimately San Antonio survived, and they won the game at the buzzer because the shot was missed at the buzzer. What the cameras caught was Greg Popovich staring down Tim Duncan with this stone face. And Tim Duncan looked back at him and then put his head down. And then afterwards, I don't know whether it was Doris Burke or Lisa Salters or somebody, they were interviewing Tim Duncan, and they pointed out the look that Greg Popovich gave him. And they said, what did Greg Popovich say? What did he say to you? And Tim Duncan said, nothing. He didn't have to. I messed up, and I knew it. That's what that look was about. And what happens is that moment just crystallized why the San Antonio Spurs were so great for so long, because Tim Duncan allowed Greg Popovich to bring the heavy hand down upon him when necessary. And as a result, it circulated throughout the rest of the team, and they were able to be successful. When your star can be held accountable, it's easier for you to coach everybody else. Nobody understands that better than Tom Brady. And Bruce Arians, that's essentially what he's saying. And I'm simply respectfully acknowledging Brett Favre should know that. He may not have had that relationship with Holmgren because he never listened to Holmgren when Holmgren was coaching him in Green Bay, and he would just sit up there and be risque and what have you and drive Holmgren crazy. But for the most part, stars in every sport recognize that.
Well, I can't believe you sound like the sensible one today. That's a very reasonable take, superficially. But let's look a little deeper, Stephen A. Sure, I agree with you. You got to hold the stars accountable. I also agree with you, and I think it's your best point, that Bruce Arians, I'm sure, did homework. He brought this up yesterday on Tom Brady, what makes him tick, how to push his buttons, and all that stuff. I don't disagree with that on the surface, but let's dig a little deeper here. Bruce Arians didn't just criticize Tom Brady. He said he needs to show more grit and determination. Grit and determination. Like everything, my thinking was lockstep with what you just said when I saw what Arians was saying. Like in real time, it was like, yup, that's right, hold him accountable, right up until he needs to show more grit and determination. Even if he thinks that that's the way to push Tom Brady's buttons, why is he hitting the panic button 1 week into the season? Like, they have the Panthers with the least experienced secondary in the league that's also banged up on the defensive front, too. Like, Tom Brady has a really good matchup going into week 2. But Arians looked at the way he played in week 1 and said, I'm going to have to bring out the heavy artillery to motivate this dude? Now, in terms of, Stephen A., you're saying, look, Popovich and Tim Duncan. Oh, I agree with that. When the superstar can get held accountable by the coach on a team, that gets everyone in line. And when you say Popovich and Tim Duncan, I think that's a great comparison to Tom Brady and Bill Belichick, not to Brady and Arians. He just got there. Brady and Belichick, fine. Duncan and Popovich, that is Brady and Belichick. Now, why did Tom Brady, that brings us into motivation for leaving in the first place. Why is he where he is at the age of 43? Why did he leave? He was in a winning situation in New England. They had a great defense, the greatest head coach of all time, and they won 12 games without Brady having offensive weapons. Why did he leave? Because of the Patriots roster? That's what the excuses are. The Patriots roster, he saw he can't win. Really? A lot of people are picking him to win a division now. Cam seems to be doing fine so far, very early on. Patriots look like the Patriots basically still. No, he left because he wants to market TB12 with his snake oil salesman friend. And Bill Belichick wasn't going to let it happen because he was looking for a big contract that Bill Belichick didn't want to give him. Because he knows his GM, Bill Belichick, wanted to deal him or let him go so he could start Garoppolo. And Garoppolo just went to the Super Bowl and had a 10-point lead in the fourth quarter. And Brady wasn't going to let that happen, did an end around to Robert Kraft and got Garoppolo sent out, and, Brady's still there. And by the way, you can't tell me it's not because he wants to prove, maybe even to himself, that he could do it without Bill Belichick. None of those motivations are the way that Tom Brady, at least when you really look at it, got to be the GOAT, right? He was willing to do it the Patriot way, which is Belichick's way, for 20 years, to the greatest success of all time. And eventually, he wants to try it a new way at the age of 43 in a new system. No, I don't think that Bruce Arians saying he needs to show more grit and determination is just something, he's just trying to motivate him. That cuts deeper.
So says you. We don't know if that's the case with Tom Brady, A. B, we do know that if you can't coach Tom Brady and you can't hold Tom Brady accountable and you can't call Tom Brady out, you'll lose credibility in the locker room. Any NFL coach or player would tell you that. Number 3, and more importantly than that, when you look at the fact that the Tampa Bay Buccaneers have struggled in the latter part of the season on the offensive side of the ball, they proved defensively last season in the last 7 or 8 games or so. But offensively, obviously, because of turnovers, they struggled. What you've got is a guy in Bruce Arians is saying this is a moment in time. The pandemic is going on. There's no fans in attendance. People are severely compromised. There was no preseason, et cetera, et cetera. This is a time to put the foot on the gas and really come out swinging haymakers. Let's do this. And calling Tom Brady and holding Tom Brady accountable. Who's to say Tom Brady didn't ask for that? I mean, last time I checked, they said that Bruce Arians was going off in practice, as he always does, and Tom Brady and Rob Gronkowski were loving it. So what's the problem?
Fine. Accountable is one thing. I'm with you on accountable. I was good with everything. I thought it was good for the team. Up until grit and determination, that doesn't strike you as strange. That doesn't ring alarm bells for you.
I do.
I think that's what Brett Favre is really reacting to. You say he needs to show more grit and determination.
Right. Well, what have I told you about accepting people's answers? Stop being hard-headed and acting like, oh, my God, they don't hear you. You said this yesterday 3 times. You said it in this segment another 4 times. Grit and determination. I understand English. I got it. I don't agree with you. period. The fact of the matter is, I think Brady knows exactly what he walked into. I think Bruce Arians knew exactly what he was doing because I think it's something he okayed with Tom Brady long before Sunday. It's very, very simple. We understand, Max. It's not like you're speaking Arabic or something. You're speaking English. We comprehend English. Grit and determination. We know what it means. We know what Bruce Arians meant when he said it. We understand that it's a very piercing kind of insult, particularly towards your quarterback. We heard it, and we still accept the fact that Tom Brady knows it, accepts it, and probably accepted it long before Sunday afternoon. We got it.
All right. Last question. Last question, Molly, then I'll leave it alone.
Yes.
Stephen A., you don't find it odd that he said grit and determination?
No, I don't find it odd because, again, if you're Tom Brady and you're in a new situation, it might be because you just arrived, that you might want to feel your way. Of course, you're going to be the leader and what have you. But in terms of your level of aggression and holding other dudes accountable, not just yourself, you might be a bit passe initially and rev it up as the season unfolds. And Bruce Arians may very well be saying to him, don't wait, do it now. Act like this is week 10, 11, 12, 13. Don't play around.
Listen, guys, we're out of time. We got DK Metcalf waiting for us. But, Max, you said a whole lot there. I wish I had time for follow-ups. We're definitely going to revisit this subject, like he had to go to Tampa to promote TB12. So I didn't totally follow all that. So we will revisit this at a later date, guys. When we come back here on First Take, to the Seahawks.